Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach. Let's just chat. Let's chat. And I may look away. That's because I'm looking out my window. I have a different setup today. I'm sitting in my living room. And I was like, my sofa felt real good, but I want to talk to the people. I was like, let's try something different. So I got a whole little makeshift setup. Y'all sitting on top of my suitcase. But I wanted to talk about something, and I don't know what you call it. I think the word I found last night was like your intrusive thoughts or whatever. Is that what y'all call it? I should look up the definition, but just roll with me, right? Have you ever, as a case manager, wondered how the people you serve are able to do like these wonderful things in their life that you probably can't do? Really generally around money type things. I used to be that way, right? And I used to have a lot of colleagues that were that way, that would, instead of asking to learn, they would be asking to be judgmental, right? Or at least not asking the people, but talking about, and this is what I mean, right? Have you ever had a person on your caseload who, like, let me not even give a scenario, let me give you a real situation. It was nothing for me to have multiple career seekers on my caseload who were in there because they needed career services, of course, and all of the things, and they were working towards lifelong self-sufficiency. However, it was very common for them to be going out of town every week. Like every summer, they would take their children on trips to Disney World and Busch Gardens. When school year would come around, they would purchase, like make big purchases and things like that. And this is a time where I was making $37,100 in my career, right? And so I remember one specific person, because me and my people on my caseload, we were all right. I never had a problem as a case manager. Never. It was just the navigation of the system. It wasn't the people that I served. They were a joy. We had great working relationship. It was the team. We were there for one objective, to meet the requirements of this program, right? However, because I was feeling so much pain in my personal life financially, I used to really like be tuned in and paying attention to what was going on. And I remember several different times, and I'm going to tell you what made me think about this the other day. I remember several different times asking several different like people on my caseload, how are you able to do that? Tell me, what's the secret? What's going on? I really need to know because I'm struggling financially, right? And so they would tell me little things about like how they saved their money. A large amount of them saved their money, like had really wonderful saving practices, right? Many of them had multiple jobs, side hustles, that's what we call them now. And I remember just always being in awe of like how they were able to do so much with so little, right? So I say that to say this. I was looking back at the replay of a new client testimonial that I uploaded on my YouTube page. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube page, you should be. Marthea Pitts. Click subscribe. Go to YouTube. Find me. You can put in Marthea Pitts or the MSW Coach. I will come up. And I recently uploaded a client testimonial with Michelle, and I was watching the replay back like I always do for quality assurance. That's the macro social worker in me. And every time I watched the video back and I listened to the audio several times on several different days before I push it out to you all in the public, right? And so when I was listening to it the other day, what I realized that I had not really paid attention to before, which for me is not a big deal because I've been doing this work well before I got on the internet, right? I've helped hundreds of people in my city, dozens of people in my personal life before you all ever knew me as Marthea Pitts, the person that helps social workers get macro jobs, right? I've been doing this. So I don't ever really pay attention to how much more money people say they are making or their new amount. Like if you go back and watch my old client testimonials, even currently now, I never ask about how much are they making. I never do. They just always tell me because I'm not surprised, right? Because I know these jobs pay and I know they pay well. And I know that everyone that I've worked with in the history of since I've been teaching people how to get jobs, they always end up making more money. So I was listening to the replay and I was getting dressed. And she said that and I wrote it down, that she's making $25,000 more than than in her last job. And this is, essentially like it is for the most people that work with me, all of the people that work with me. This is the most money they've ever made in their career. Again, when I was even in the American Job Center, I helped people get six-figure jobs, which is unheard of really in my city unless you are in government, in higher ed, very high ranking in the government, things like that, right? So when I heard Michelle say, yeah, I'm making $25,000 more, it then made me think of another conversation that I recently had with a coaching client who joined my micro to macro career accelerator. And I asked, and I'm taking her through the 3Ps framework curriculum, which is my career clarity framework. If you never heard me talk about that, it's a framework I designed in my own social work career. As a case manager with 120 plus caseload to really get clarity around what type of macro job that I wanted, because I was tired of just taking any job and being out of extreme alignment. And I had a very clear goal for myself that I wanted to have more larger impactful roles. I wanted to be as proximate as power as possible to help create equitable career pathways for youth and young adults, right? So I created this framework in my cubicle and it worked. I landed over 5 macro jobs, one of them being with the oldest think tank, one of them being with one of the oldest think tanks in Washington, D.C., where I work with mayors and help them design equitable career pathway opportunities for youth and young adults, under-resourced youth and young adults. So fast forward, I've used this same framework with my coaching clients. That's why when you go on my client testimonials and check them out, I will put them in the playlist. They're in a playlist. You could go check them out. Everybody talks about how they love their macro job, and it's because they're now doing work that aligns with their outside passions, their how they want their day-to-day work. They are really truly in an aligned space, and it's centered around the populations and issues that they're most passionate about. So I say all that to say that because new people find me every day. So in this conversation I was having with this new social worker that just recently joined the accelerator, and my little new setup is, for some reason, my computer's trying to sleep every 3 minutes. So if you see me doing that, I'm making it wake up. So we were on her passion, and passion is where you sketch out what are the things you do outside of work, and I help you find creative ways by looking at your outside passions, I can then figure out what it is that you should be doing in your career, right? Because what I always say is that the things that you do in your free time really is what you want to be getting paid for. And before you get, all high strung, I'm not talking about monetizing your most closely held passions. That's not what we talking about. But out of the 20 that you got, we can take one of them and blend it into your career. That way you can have higher career satisfaction rates, because on an average, social workers report that they are over 50% of social workers surveyed in a survey that I read a few years ago report that they're unsatisfied with their jobs, right? So the aim is to increase your career satisfaction rates. So when I was asking her about her passion, she named a few things. I think it was less than 3. And then, however, she made the note, she was like, however, I do want to travel. And she said something else, and I don't remember what it is right now. And I said, why aren't you traveling now? She was like, honestly, because I can't afford it. And then she went on to talk about how she and her family really want to start traveling and taking her child on trips and things like that and vacations, but she can't afford it. Right. Keep in mind, she does live in a very high cost city. So all of that, which everywhere in the world is high cost, everywhere in America is high cost at this point. But I remember when I heard Michelle talk about the fact that she's making $25,000 more. She has way more peace in her research job coming from being a food pantry social worker. And I remember thinking about the thought, like when you're a case manager and you're making pennies and you see people who are doing way better than you financially. And it made me want to come on and talk to you about like the desire to want more, right? It's okay to want more. You can still be an advocate for the populations, the issues that you love most, and still desire to want more. I didn't even know this was a thing until one of my other coaching clients in another cohort like sent me this whole video one time on Instagram around people having the belief that in order to serve, like in a public service, they weren't necessarily explicitly just only talking about social work, but in order to serve and give back to others, you essentially, this is my words, have to take a vow of poverty. And I never just focus on what the person is saying in the video. I always go to look at the comments, and it was thousands of comments of people in helping professionals, helping professions, like echoing what this person was saying in the video, that they believe that they cannot have more when serving others. And I just want to say, like, that's a lie. I always quote my mama on this one, right? She's giving me a lot of things that I still carry with me. Nobody's working for free. Nobody's working for free. I used to have this colleague. She was an OG case manager. When I worked in my first case management job, I've only had two, right? OG. When I say OG, we had two OGs. One was, he started in that program at the creation of the act. And the act was almost like 20 years old, right? I probably was like 25 years old. And she had been in the program probably like 15, 18 years shortly after the act was implemented and started, right? So she had this thing that she would do because they were so OGs and they knew where the bodies were buried, and they used to give them hell. They used to give leadership hell in their job, right? That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. And I was the new blood on the team. I'm new to case management. I'm coming from call center work. I'm coming off my career sabbatical. I ain't worked in over a year. I've been living life, learning to prioritize myself. And so when I return back to the workforce, of course, I'm like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I have a lot of optimism. I'm happy. I'm excited. Life is good. I've been sitting at my house and traveling every weekend for the last year and a half, and I'm here, right? And so, but however, because they had been so long, they were beyond the point of burnout, beyond burnt out. And so they were extremely negative people. And so she had this thing that she would do where ultimately now, more mature eyes, more, being in the world a little bit more. And now that I'm thinking about it, talking it to you, really, truly, she had dreams of retiring, but I don't think she could afford to retire, right? So it was not uncommon for her to come to work and be like, I don't have to work this job. I'm just here. Like, that was the thing she said. She would say it every day. She would say it so much throughout the day. I started to believe her. And I remember one time talking on the phone with my mom, and I was like, yeah, this lady says she just working because. I said, but she's so mean, because I remember calling my mom trying to really get help to navigate this situation, because this lady did not like me, right? She did not like me. And the other person didn't either. But now that I'm saying it out loud, it wasn't me. It was the live. It was the light in me. It was the optimism in me. It was the fact that I was not burned out and I was helping my people, right? And I want to stop for a moment and talk about that as I'm thinking about it out loud, because many of you have shared with me, or at least I've seen it on the internet a time or two, where you're talking about like your experiences with these OG social workers who are just essentially raining on your parade every chance they get. And I want you to know if you're experiencing that, because that's what I was experiencing. I was just a social work student, but technically she wasn't a social worker. It's still the same though. She had worked in social services for years. She had served the public for years. And she was like disgruntled because she had gone through many leadership changes. She had gone through many contract renewals. She had been laid off and hired back again with the new like all of the things. So I want you to know, like, they're not attacking you as a human. They're attacking themselves, because in essence, I'm thinking this through as I'm talking about it. When she saw me, she probably saw like what she used to be, because I'm going to give it to her. She was a very good resource to be connected to. Like I specialize in working with youth and pregnant and parenting youth and young adults. However, her, even though that she wasn't formally specializing in things, she went over and beyond to like ideate with her career seekers about starting businesses. And that was nowhere in the scope of our practice, right? So I remember one time, I remember learning this from her. She also served a lot of two parent cases. So she had usually both of the parents on her caseload. And so I remember her one time telling the father, who needed to make some money. Again, this is before the side hustle boom where we are now. This is before Uber Eats. This is all like 8 years ago, and Lyft and all of the things like in Amazon delivery. And even if it still was happening in other parts of the country, it wasn't happening in our city because we were a rural town. So I remember overhearing her one time telling the father, she was like, you need to go, because we lived in a college town. So every semester, right, especially the fall and the spring semesters, there was always a need for like people to rotate college apartment complexes, like the units, clean them out, move furniture for the students, set up the things. Like that is a peak time for the people that were on our caseloads to make money, and like they would rack up if they got with legitimate services. Now there was a lot of scheming and scamming with the college apartment cleaning services, where they would hire our people and have them clean 100 units and then don't pay them. Like that was a common thing as well. But I remember hearing her one semester telling the father, she was like, go to U-Haul, rent you a U-Haul truck. It only will cost you like $100 or something like that, she was saying. She was like, don't worry about paying the mileage, because by that time you will have the money. I think she had said it like $29 or something like that. Is U-Haul $29? I think it used to be. She was like, go rent the U-Haul and then go to the college campuses and tell the students you can move their furniture and charge them. And I was like, that is a genius idea, right? Because the man was like talking about the fact that he was moving people in his family or something like that. And she was like, you could start a business doing that. Like she was really, really good at that. And now that I think about that out loud, I think she had to be at one point very optimistic, and she was still fighting to hold that version of herself. Okay, but I say all that to say this. She used to come to work every day and like make this bold claim, like when the supervisors would be getting on her nerves, essentially, that she didn't have to work, that she was just here, that she could retire at any moment. However, every day like clockwork, she was in that office at 8 a.m. along with the rest of us. And I remember calling my mama because I was really trying to understand her, right? Because I couldn't understand why this lady didn't like me. I had never done anything with her. I barely talked to her, right? She just had a deep disdain for me. And so I remember my mother, and I told my mother, she said she don't have to work. I said, but I don't understand why she coming to work every day, just retire. And that's when my mama was like, nobody works just because. Everybody works because they need money, right? So I say that to you. I went through all of that to say this to you. Everybody works because they need money, right? So it's okay to have desires, to want more, to do more. Because I'm going to tell you from firsthand experience, from being someone who was making $19,100 at one point, money makes your life easier. Money makes your life easier. I don't have the same problems that I had as the person making $19,100 a year. I don't even have the same problems I had as the person making $37,100 in that first case management job like 7 years ago. All of that disappeared with my first macro job, right? I achieved something major this week. I'm not going to go into detail, but it was something that I had been praying about being able to do for years. Money allowed me to do it, right? So if you can't dream for yourself, if you can't want more or desire more for yourself, then at least desire it for the people that you support in your life, because you know you're an overgiver, right? So maybe for you, you support your immigrant parents. Maybe for you, you support your children. Maybe for you, you support your spouse. Maybe for you, you support your cat, your dog, whatever the thing is, insert the thing. But it's okay to want more. In the moment you realize that and accept that, it's tremendous, right? Your life does not have to always be pain, struggle, and strife. It ain't got to be that way. There's other alternatives. You can still serve and want more. Money make your life easier. I'm going to keep saying that. Money make your life easier. Okay? So instead of sitting with your face scrawled up, trying to understand why your clients are doing way better than you, start learning from what they're doing. That's what I used to do. I was like, tell me. And I used to have my pen and paper. What are you doing? They'd be like, Miss Pitts, go over there to this place and talk to this lady. My clients, my career seekers used to tell me about way more programs and services that I didn't know about. They would tell me where to take my daughter to get reduced summer camp fees with quality summer camps, not the city camps. If y'all watch that video, you know how I feel about them city camps. I'm not talking about no city camp. They would tell me, Miss Pitts, take your baby over there, talk to such and such. Go on Wednesday afternoon. Then they would come back and follow up. Miss Pitts, did you take your baby over there? Yeah, she in the camp. Thank you so much for that. Right? So instead of judging the people that you think can't offer you anything, ask them. Right? If you don't even take them up on a resource they're sharing, at least try to glean something from the lesson they're sharing. For me, it was like, oh, okay, you saving money? What? I didn't even think I could save. They would tell me how they would be saving. I save $50 every time I get paid. And then I plan to take my baby to Disney World once a year. And then I save my income tax. Right? Things like that. So I'm going to go. But yeah, it's okay. It's okay to want more. It's okay to have more. Y'all better stop letting these people lie to you. Life get better the more money you have. Life get better the more money you have. All right. I'll talk to you later. Happy macro career planning. Bye.